This is the Barbados Today morning news for Thursday, August 17. Thank you for joining us. I am Marie-Claire Williams. We begin with news that there are fresh plans to revive the Andrews Sugar Project in St. Joseph. Nearly 18 months ago, the High Court upheld an injunction by Andrews Great House owner Emil Elias to shut down the $250 million venture. But now government is heading back to court to argue that the wrong officials were sued. Elias's attorney, Ibrahim Laki, told Barbados Today that government has applied to the court to have the Chief Town Planner, Mark Cummings, and Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite removed as subjects of the injunction. He says the administration contends that it was Prime Minister Frendel Stewart, as minister responsible for town planning, who should have been sued. Laki says authorities are objecting to the judicial review application, which says the Chief Town Planner had exceeded his jurisdiction in granting planning permission for the project. In other news this morning, one government minister is throwing his support behind the controversial National Social Responsibility Levy. Housing Minister Dennis Kelman is also praising Finance Minister Chris Sinclair for introducing the tax. He suggests that if implemented correctly, the NSRL could become the tax of Barbados.
NSRL does not create a headache for retailers, whereas you do not have to account for it. So it does not add that negative about work. You see, there's a myth and the fake news. NSRL comes to retailers like how duty comes, a duty came to them, or how it comes to them. In other words, you do not see it. So you do not have to worry about it, and the consumer doesn't have to worry about it, even though it is in the price. Whereas VAT, you have to do a separation. You know, so those persons who walk around giving people the impression that it impacts on the retailers, they have to be very careful, you know.
The NSRL was introduced last year as a 2% tax on imported goods. It was increased to 10% last month as part of government's austerity measures aimed at reviving the economy. Barbados remains on alert for heavy rain and high winds from today. The Met Office issued a severe weather statement yesterday saying it is closely monitoring a number of low-pressure systems moving over the Atlantic. The Met Office says it is keeping a close eye on a nearby system about 700 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. Forecasters say the system is showing signs of slow development as it moves westward at 17 to 23 miles per hour. The Met Office warns that the island is likely to experience some moderate to heavy showers, periods of rain, scattered thunderstorms, and occasional gusty winds from this afternoon into early Friday. It is also cautioning that a flood watch or warning could be issued at short notice. A family who lost their daughter to cancer 5 years ago is keeping her memory alive by helping students at her former schools to pursue their education. Melanie Kristen Price was a student at the Hugh Wooding Law School in Trinidad when she died in 2012, and her parents launched a foundation in her name shortly after her passing to assist a student at that institution, as well as the Rock Christian School and Queen's College, which she also attended. Her mother, Yvette Oxley, says they have been offering support to students in Melanie's name for the past 3 years.
And in 2014, we actually gave the first one, which came out of family and friends, and that one at the time was worth $15,000. But subsequently, dealing with the shifts in the economy and our ability to raise funds, the Hugh Wooding one came down to $10,000, and it's given in 2 tranches. After the first year, you have to show that you have maintained a satisfactory and excellent performance, because Melanie was a student of excellence, and therefore her legacy should be carried on that way. And we gave 2 $1,000 scholarships to the Rock and to Queen's College, both based on excellence as well as a need that we see the students have. And that ultimately is our purpose.
Sports now. The first test between England and West Indies bowls off at Edgbaston this morning. It will be the first ever day-night test match in England using the pink ball. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Windies captain Jason Holder appeared optimistic over his team's performance.
We had 2 solid weeks of preparation here in England. I felt the 3 tour games were of good benefit to us. You know, we got a chance to get acclimatized, obviously get a chance to see how the pickball operates here in England as well, and you know, also the red ball. So it was to me pretty good exercise in the last 2 weeks.
What were your impressions of pickball at Derby?
It was interesting. You know, speaking to a few of the Derby lads, they seemed to think it didn't do much. It didn't hold up as well as we thought it did. You know, we were able to keep good care of our ball, and you know, we got some movement initially, then it stopped for a bit, and then I felt it picked up, you know, in that twilight period, as a lot of people have remarked. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes here in terms of the surface. I think is a pretty big square as well, so I don't know if that will have some effect on the ball itself, but the outfield is pretty lush and soft as well, so we'll see how it goes.
And the match bowls off at 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Morning, Miss Oya. Morning. You again. So you're washing cars now? Well, I can't keep up with you at all.
Yes, girl. You know they're going provision to selling slow. And I don't sell nation newspapers at all because them don't sell. So I washing cars now. I like to get up before 8:30 because I can't take the hot sun. You want the car wash?
No, not today. It clean.
But you're going in very early though?
Yeah, I just going early so I can read the Barbados Today online before work starts.
Right. But you can still let me clean the vendor for the $2. At least it's still cheaper than the nation newspaper.
All right.
I got a special boo here that I got it shiny. Thank you. Enjoy your day here.
You too.
All right. What that paper is? She can see clearly when the dirt is gone.
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We are back now with news from the region. There are calls for more health workers in indigenous communities in Guyana. Officials say many of those who have already been trained have not returned to their villages. We get more in this report from HGP Nightly News.
A special effort is being made to train more indigenous folk to take up much-needed public posts in their villages, including posts as health workers, doctors, nurses and midwives, because a considerable amount of those who have already been trained have not returned to their communities. This is according to Junior Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Valerie Garrido-Lowe.
A nurse from Barbados TODAY or perhaps from Bamboo Creek might be asked to serve at least a year or 2 in that hospital before she returns to her village. So we have different things happening that would prevent, but we're not giving up. We're training more, lots more, so that whatever happens, each village in the end, our government plans that each village will have a health worker.
Minister Garrido-Lowe explained that presently there is a shortage of nurses throughout Guyana, and district hospitals such as the one in Madia would have a demand for more nurses because of the population it serves. Hence, it is imperative that more medical workers be trained as soon as possible.
Further afield, Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga says he will mount a legal challenge to the result of last week's presidential election. Incumbent Uhuru Kenyatta won the election with 54% of the votes, but Odinga is accusing electoral officials of fraud. Foreign observers have described the vote as free and fair, and the international community is calling for calm amid fears that Odinga's claims of fraud could result in violence. And finally, there are fears of a public health emergency in Sierra Leone if the victims of this week's deadly mudslide are not buried soon enough. Residents have been queuing in the capital, Freetown, to identify their loved ones who died in the disaster. We get more in this Reuters report.
There's little time for mourning as Sierra Leone rushes to bury its dead. Hundreds of residents queued in Freetown on Wednesday to identify victims of a deadly mudslide, amid fears that the decomposing bodies could lead to a public health emergency. Nearly 400 people have been confirmed dead after a mudslide and flooding swept away homes in Regent, a town on the edge of the capital, on Monday. Families were summoned to the morgue after the government said all unidentified bodies would be buried by Friday, transported to a cemetery where victims of the Ebola outbreak that ravaged this country a few years ago are buried. Emergency response teams have raced to dig out survivors and bodies, but many are still feared trapped under mud and rubble. Aid workers have said there is a high risk of disease outbreaks, such as cholera. Cars and people coming to a standstill in Freetown on Thursday. A minute's silence to remember the dead. But for relatives and health workers, there's no time to stand still.
And that takes us to the end of the news this morning. For more, you can log on to our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also find us on Mix 96.9 FM. I am Mary Claire Williams. Have a good morning.